Hello and welcome to another video tutorial from Duncan Cartledge Online, this time on NRM1. It follows on from a previous presentation on NRM2. On completion of this presentation, you'll understand the rationale for the introduction of NRM1 and in addition be able to interpret and apply NRM1 for the production of estimates and cost plans. It would be a good idea to have a copy of NRM1 handy. So here is the NRM suite. NRM1 was the first document of the suite to be published and probably, although this is anecdotal, the most widely used and adopted by the industry and professionals. A video presentation on NRM3 will follow in due course. What is NRM1 for? In a nutshell, it is guidance on the preparing and presenting of estimates and cost plans. A very important task, as get this wrong and the job may not go ahead. A very important document in the estimating and cost planning process is the BCIS Elemental Standard Form of Cost Analysis. As noted on this page, the fourth edition is aligned to NRM1. This document defines the contents of the standard list of elements and what is included in them, and is available as a free download. Where does the NRM suite fit into the big picture? This figure is taken from NRM1. At the top of the tree is the International Cost Measurement Standards, or ICMS, which you may be familiar with. Beneath that we have an RICS professional statement on cost prediction. But just what is a professional statement? Well, here it is. An RICS professional statement is a document setting out what the RICS considers to be good practice. Importantly, parts of the statement are mandatory for RICS members and RICS registered practices and must be followed unless you've got a good excuse or you get your knuckles wrapped. Why was there a need for NRM1? A reasonable person would think that the profession had devised a standard form for drawing up and presenting cost advice to clients. But that is not the case. There is even confusion around the terminology that should be used, leaving clients unsure about what they are getting for their money. So enter NRM1. It sets out guidance and standard structures for preparing and presenting cost information to clients. But remember, NRM1 is not mandatory. It is only guidance. Unlike NRM2, with which you may be familiar, NRM1 is arranged in 14 elemental groups corresponding to the BCIS standard form of cost analysis. Apart from that, the general layout is similar to NRM2, as will be demonstrated later. Providing cost advice is an iterative process. That's to say, it is continuous and hopefully becomes more accurate and detailed as the design progresses. This page lists the stages recommended by NRM1. Whether in practice all these documents, particularly the number of cost plans, are prepared is debatable. Note the first item, rough order of cost estimate. This was added into the third edition, released in 2021, with little explanation of what exactly rough means, although it appears that it should be used to compare various options or alternatives. This table shows the recommended stages set against the RIBA 2020 Plan of Work, the RICS Professional Statement mentioned earlier, and the OGC Gateway, which, although archived several years ago, is still referred to. Again, note the new requirement at stage 0. The measurement rules of NRM1 are divided into two distinct parts. Part 2, dealing with cost estimation, and Parts 3 and 4, dealing with cost planning, although in earlier editions that was not the case, as cost estimating didn't have its own set of distinct rules. This page illustrates the differences in content between an order of cost estimate and a cost plan. An order of cost estimate could be in the form of a single figure for building work or, if detail permits, distributed over main elemental groups, whereas a cost plan should contain details of cost allocation over the sub-elements. Although estimating and cost planning have distinct parts in NRM1, the techniques recommended to produce estimates and cost plans are virtually identical, leading to a certain amount of repetition in the document. So, let's start looking at how to prepare cost estimates. When calculating a rough order of cost estimate, there are two recommended approaches: using gross internal floor area or the functional unit method. Examples of functional units are given in an appendix. When it comes to the order of cost estimate, there are three recommended approaches to produce cost advice, with the addition of the elemental approach, although hardly practical at this stage due to the lack of detailed information. This approach is also recommended for producing cost plans. This page illustrates the NRM1 rules for calculating the cost of substructures for an order of cost estimate. It shows that the element substructures should be measured in square meters based on the lowest floor area. But what constitutes the lowest floor? This is where the elemental standard form of cost analysis comes into its own. It defines the parameters of the elements. And here is the definition of the element substructure from the BCIS standard form of cost analysis. Here is another extract from NRM1, Order of Cost Estimates, showing the rules for measuring the element's external walls. Again, measured in square meters, but note measured not on the center line, but the internal face. How a description is framed is covered later in this presentation. Now, let's look at cost plans and the preparation of a cost plan for the substructure. In this section, you will discover how to measure and describe elements of a cost plan. This is an extract from the cost plan measurement rules in NRM1. As can be seen, the layout of the rules for cost plans is similar to NRM2 and NRM3 and sets the coverage rules for this element. As illustrated on the next slide, the following should be measured and priced separately when preparing a cost plan using NRM1. Here are the NRM1 rules of measurement for cost plans for substructures. One of the comments I received when I gave CPD presentations on NRM1 was there was too much information to become familiar with. So, starting on the left, choose Standard Foundation, measured in linear meters. C2 states that foundations are measured on the center line. The final two columns set out what items are included and what items are excluded from this element. A similar approach is needed when measuring basements. The calculation of a cost plan allowance for substructure is in two parts. A cost for the standard foundation, as outlined previously, and, as shown on this page, a cost for the lowest ground floor construction and includes overside slab, hard core, damp-proof membranes, etc. We will now measure and describe the element substructure as shown on this drawing. And here is a section through the substructure. The first task is to calculate the center line of the foundations, dotted in red, in a very similar manner to calculating a bill of quantities item. In this example, the girth of the deep strip foundation only has been calculated. The next step is to compose a description of the item that allows the work sections to be identified and accurately priced. The second part of the exercise is to calculate the gross internal floor area of the lowest ground floor, and again compose an appropriate description. Note the dimensions in the dimension column are indicative. The cost of these two items, foundations and ground floor, are added together to give the cost plan figure for the substructure. Superstructure is a major group element split into a number of elements as detailed here. This page sets out the rules for the measurement of windows and external doors. The excluded column states that forming openings for windows and doors are measured and included in the external wall sub-element 2.5. It's probably evident now that NRM1 can be used to prepare an approximate bill of quantities suitable for use in procurement. The presentation of the figures is a very important feature of NRM1. For an estimate of cost, items 0 to 8 could be given as a single lump sum, whereas for a cost plan, the element groups should have individual cost allowances. Items 9 to 14 are required for both estimates and cost plans. Here are summary items 9 to 14 in greater detail. Note in particular the inclusion of the design team fees and a risk allowance, replacing the traditional contingency. NRM1 suggests that for larger projects, separate cost plans should be prepared for each significant part, as shown here. Estimates and cost plans are only as good as the inputted cost data. In almost all cases, the data will need to be updated and adapted. This process is described in the Cost Advice video library on Duncan Cartledge Online. We hope that you have found this presentation useful. For more videos on similar topics, visit duncancartledgeonline.com and subscribe to the YouTube channel.